morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Local Bridge and Culvert Inventory and Assessment webinar. I am Mark O'Connell of the Wisconsin Counties Association. We thank you all for joining us today. As an added note, this webinar will be recorded. There is a link in the chat. You can view it at your leisure. The most recent state budget tasked the Department of Transportation to work with local government to create a local inventory and assessment of our local bridges. The department has worked diligently with local government to develop a process to do just that. This webinar, presented to you as sponsored by the Department of Transportation, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, the Wisconsin Towns Association, and the Wisconsin Counties Association, is here to lay out that process. Before we get to Josh Dietschy, who will lay out the process we're going to follow in this assessment and inventory, we are very honored to have with us the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Secretary Craig Thompson, for a few opening remarks. Mr. Secretary.
Well, thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity just to take a few minutes at the beginning of this webinar to thank the Counties Association and the League of Municipalities and the Towns Association for sponsoring this. This is a very, very important webinar. We've been hearing for years about the problems of 6 to 20 foot bridges and culverts not being inventoried and knowing where they all are at so that they can be funded, and the problems that that's caused in many parts of our state. So the fact that your groups were able to get together and not only get the funding in and pass through the legislature and signed by the governor for this, which was a tremendous task, but to set up this new program has taken a tremendous amount of work. And the collaboration, I think, has been outstanding. The people that you have on this webinar today, Mark O'Connell and our head of our Bureau of Structures, Josh Dietschy, leading it, and the panelists that you have on here today, our two leaders from our Division of Transportation System Development, Rebecca Burkle and Scott Lowry, the president of the County Highway Association, Patrick Vandersanden, the president of that group, Roland Hawk, obviously Jerry DeShane, the executive director of the league, and Mike Colas, the executive director of the Towns Association, have been the folks that we have been meeting with. They have been neck deep in all of these issues to figure out how we're going to roll out this brand new program so that we can not only inventory but assess the 6 to 20 foot bridges and culverts that are out there. So you have the people on here on this webinar today that are going to be able to run you through everything that we've been through to get to this point, answer the questions. I see that we're over 350 people already on this webinar and climbing every second. So I know the tremendous level of interest that's out there. I just wanted to come on at the beginning to say that I just appreciate so much the partnership we've had with the groups that are sponsoring this, the people that are on this panel. And I think it's a testament that we can work together across all the levels of government to deliver this brand new program that I know is going to be so important to the people of Wisconsin, that we can inventory and assess all of these 6 to 20 foot structures. So with that, thank you, Mark. Thank you to the groups, and look forward to the input from the webinar, and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. So well stated. We will now turn to Mr. Josh Dietschy. The Department of Transportation is, Mr. Secretary has assembled one of the finest group of public servants you will find anywhere in state government. And one of the stars at DOT is Mr. Josh Dietschy. And Josh is going to walk us through the process we're going to follow on the assessment and inventory and assessment. So Josh, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction, Mark, as I share my screen here. So I'll just verify first, you guys are hearing me and seeing my screen.
We can see it and hear it, Josh.
All right, good deal. Excellent. First, I would absolutely echo everything that Mark just said and the Secretary just said. This has been an awesome collaborative effort. I'm going to talk more about that as we go through this. Also happy to see so many people joining the webinar. It was mentioned it's going to be recorded. And one more thing, Mark, just to verify, if people have questions throughout, they can enter those in the chat, correct?
Yes. Any questions, comments you have, put them in the chat, and we will get to as many as we possibly can. If there are questions we do not get to, We will inventory them and certainly get back to those individuals. Following the webinar, if you have specific questions, feel free to call your respective organization, whether it be WCHA, WTA, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, or WCA, or of course DOT, and we'll get an answer to you.
All right. Yeah, I bring that up because I've got a presentation I'm going to walk through here, just to, as it says there, an overview of the program that we are laying out to propose for the collecting the inventory and assessment information for these structures. But it's only going to take up a portion of the time. We've got an hour allotted here today, so there should be plenty of time for questions afterwards. So if you do have those, again, enter those in the chat and we'll get to them shortly. So first, an overview of the issue that we're looking at. Excuse me. Some of you may know, but maybe not all. When we say bridge, it actually does have a specific definition to it. You can go on your favorite search engine and Google that Code of Federal Regulations reference. I have the language there on the slide, but the important part of it is what I've got bolded there in yellow. Is really that a bridge is defined as something 20 feet, more than 20 feet. And that's important for a few reasons, right? I can get my slide to advance. So why does it matter? Because if something's defined as a bridge, then there are specific requirements for inventory information that must be collected and stored. Things like length, width, the roadway type that runs over that bridge, the number of lanes, etc. It also has requirements that it needs to be regularly inspected. I think most of you as local owners are well aware of those requirements. It also has requirements that it has to have an up-to-date load rating, a measure of the capacity, how heavy a truck, how heavy a car can drive over that bridge. And maybe most importantly for what we're going to talk about here today, bridges are also eligible for federal bridge rehabilitation and replacement funding. All that bridge data that we have, some of you are aware, are stored in what we call our Highway Structures Information System. It's an online database that has really any information you might want to see related to bridges. So I just went through bridges. The difference is structures under 20 feet long, not classified technically as bridges, don't have any of those same inventory requirements, don't have any of those same inspection requirements, don't have the same load rating requirements, and again, most importantly, probably for what we're going to talk about here today, are not eligible for federal bridge rehabilitation and replacement funding. So why is that an issue? First, bridges and what I'm going here, not bridges, can look and act very similar. So I've got a couple photos up there, look very similar structures, right? But the one on the left measured out at just under 20 feet, 19'9". The one on the right is 24 feet. So even though they look the same, the one on the right is a bridge, and again, needs to be inspected, needs to have that inventory information collected, and is eligible for rehab and replacement funds. The one on the left is under 20 feet, so it's not technically by federal definition a bridge and doesn't have any of those same requirements. A couple other similar photos here. This one more of a concrete box culvert, but similar looking structures. And again, the one on the left, the only difference is that's 15 feet. The one on the right actually has two cells there. So two boxes side by side that measure out for a total of 24 feet. So again, the one on the right is classified as a bridge. The one on the left is not a bridge. And why is that important? Well, even though they're not classified as bridges, as most of you are well aware, they can still present some issues. I clipped a few recent examples here. You can see from the photos up there on the screen. There can still be an issue, whether it's an actual collapse like the one you see on the far left there, or whether it just results in the maybe a sinking in the road, something that you have to repair or replace. Still definitely an issue for local owners, again, without that funding there to deal with it. So it's been referred to already today, and the reason we're here is that in the most recent Wisconsin state budget, there was language put in there at the top, and I'll just read through it quickly, providing $12.5 million appropriation in fiscal year 24 for the assessment of local bridges and culverts. I'll skip through that, and directs the department to develop a program for counties to assess local bridges and culverts that are less than 20 feet, but greater than 6 feet in length. And if you want to look up the actual state statute that came out of that, that's below, but similar language as to what you see there. So it directs WisDOT to develop a program to assess these structures that we're talking about. I want to stress, it's already been mentioned a number of times, that this truly was a collaborative effort to develop the program that you're gonna see here today between the organizations that you see listed there: Wisconsin DOT, Wisconsin Towns Association, League of Municipalities, Counties Association, gratefully to them for hosting us today, and Wisconsin County Highways Association. And I'll speak for myself. I work for WisDOT in the department's Bureau of Structures. I'm the one that you're probably going to hear from most here today, but got to give credit to many of our staff that have helped out with this effort as well. It's certainly not just me. So what are we looking at for the side of this local inventory? Well, collaborating again with those local owner or associations that I just mentioned. We think there's approximately 25,000 structures out there that meet the criteria that I just mentioned. We determined that from doing some GIS mapping, taking the network of local roads and overlaying the known waterways on top of that to identify possible locations where some of these structures might exist. We did it by extrapolating from data that we have for state-owned structures of this size. And again, the local owners associations have done some surveying of their own members to determine how many they think are out there, and all kind of came to the same answers that we think there's about 25,000 out there. Now, we won't know for sure until we go out and go through this effort, but that's the size of the issue that we think we're dealing with. And again, as we get more into the details here and get more actually into implementing the effort, we can provide some of the information that we have on where we think these structures are possibly located. So working together, we came up with a phased approach and reached consensus on kind of these phases. First, an inventory effort, and then an inspection effort with a load rating effort after that, as I say up there, as needed and pending available funds. And I'll get to that a little bit later. So jumping right into it, the inventory portion of this phased approach. I'll start out just what I have there. So to collect the information that we're proposing to collect in the inventory phase, I want to make it clear that you don't need any qualifications for the person collecting this information. There's some basic training. You'll need a little bit of direction on what we're looking for, but you don't need any special degree or certification or anything like that to do it. WisDOT Bureau of Structures, we will provide that direction and training that's required. That'll come in the form of a webinar in the near future here yet, and I'll talk more about that at the end. The data that's collected as a portion of this effort will be uploaded to that Highway Structures Information System, or HSIS, that I mentioned earlier, that online database where we store all our bridge information. We're going to store this information in the same spot. And then below on this slide, I've got all the information that we're proposing to collect during this inventory phase. You can see a lot of it is pretty straightforward. I mean, starting with real basic information like the name of the person collecting it, the date that the person's collecting it, the owner of that structure, the city of whatever, village of whatever, county of whatever, the county that it's located in, municipality, so on and so forth. Then getting to a little bit of a little later on in that list, some information about the structure itself, the total structure length, the structure type. Is it a box culvert or is it a girder bridge? And again, we'll provide information, photographs to kind of help you determine some of these items. The local owners will have 3 options for resourcing this inventory effort. They can choose to use their own staff because, again, you don't need any special qualifications to do it. You just have to view the webinar that we're going to put on. They have the option to contract with a private sector agency, hire someone to go and do it for you, collect this information. Or they can coordinate with their county highway commissioner and use county staff. And again, it would be a conversation to see if the county feels like they have the resources to go and do that on behalf of the local municipality. Regardless of who's doing it, all the information, again, will be uploaded into HSIS, that online database used to store bridge information. And regardless of which method you pick to resource as well, that inventory information is going to be funneled to WisDOT through the county highway commissioners. So if it's the local owners themselves or their staff collecting the information, they would send it to the county highway commissioner to send to WisDOT for upload. Or if it's a private sector agency collecting it on their behalf, it would still flow through the county highway commissioner. I mentioned earlier that there is funding out there for this effort. That's a big part of the reason why we're talking about it today. So WisDOT, again, in conversations with in collaboration, I should say, with the local owners associations, have agreed on this reimbursement structure. So we're going to reimburse $100 per structure. Again, the information flowing up through the county highway commissioners. Similarly, the reimbursement will flow back down through the county highway commissioners. WisDOT will reimburse them based on the number of structures inventories received for their respective county. And then those county highway commissioners will be responsible for distributing the funds to the people that collected that information. So that's phase 1, the inventory phase. Again, just kind of figuring out what we have and where it's located and a little bit of information about it. Phase 2 is finding out some condition information. What kind of shape are these structures in out there? So the inspection phase. For this, you do need a little bit of training. We're requiring that these inspections be performed by Wisconsin certified bridge inspectors. We've got about 300 currently certified in the state of Wisconsin, so the resources are out there. The inspections themselves, they're going to be similar to what we do for bridges, but scaled back a bit, simplified a bit. But based on national standards that are out there and that we use for the bridge inventory as well, what's called the National Bridge Inspection Standards. It's a rating scale on a scale of 0 to 9. Again, for those of you that have bridges in your county and your municipality that you deal with directly, this rating scale is not new to you. You can see from the lowest end, severe condition, 0 to 2, all the way up to the highest end, 7 to 9 in good condition. And similarly to what I mentioned on the inventory portion of this, the WisDOT Bureau of Structures will provide direction and training to that. So you have to be a certified bridge instructor. So what we're going to talk about is not going to be out of bounds from what you're normally dealing with, but there are some specifics to this effort that we want to make clear on. And again, that'll be through webinar, and I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. So again, similar to the inventory phase, local owners have 3 options for resource in the inspection effort. So municipalities that have staff certified as bridge inspectors, there are a few, mostly the bigger cities. There's a handful of them. So really looking at those and feel like they have the capacity to resource the effort, may inspect the structures in their jurisdiction using their own bridge inspectors. But for most of you out there who don't have bridge inspectors on staff, you're looking at either one of those those last 2 options. So you can collaborate with your county highway commissioner, talk to them if they have staff certified as bridge inspectors, and see if they have the capacity to resource the effort to inspect these structures on your behalf. Or if the county highway commissioner either doesn't have, or the county, I should say, doesn't have staff certified as bridge inspectors on staff, or don't feel like they have the capacity to do it just based on the numbers that there are in their county, private sector bridge inspectors, certified bridge inspectors, are an option as well. So going back to the reimbursement portion of it, we said we were reimbursing $100 per structure for the inventory effort. The inspections, a little bit more rigorous effort, so reimbursing $350 per structure for that. So again, based on the option that was chosen, when either the municipal or county inspectors are used, that reimbursement will go to the county highway commissioner, either to reimburse the county directly or to be distributed down to the local municipality as appropriate. When consultant inspectors are used, Wisconsin Counties Association has agreed to coordinate pulling together those consultant contracts, trying to take advantage of an economy of scale, kind of group the structures together to more efficiently get the job done, both from mainly from a time-wise point of view. And in that case, the reimbursement would go back to WCA to then disperse to the consultants that are selected. Load rating, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. The primary parts of this that we're focused on are that inventory inspection phase that I just talked about. But as I say there, as deemed necessary and pending the availability of funds, so kind of when we get to the end and see how much money we have left, because I want to stress that the number of these, while we're estimating that there's 25,000 out there, that's an estimate at this point. We'll know a lot more once we go through that inventory phase. So there's a potential that we may do some load ratings at the end of this as well to determine, as it say there, load ratings are done to determine if a structure can safely carry legal weight vehicles. It's done for the safety of the traveling public. As necessary, you guys have probably seen it with some local bridges out there. We load post as necessary. So if we do that engineering analysis, as I say there, it's performed by structural engineers and determine that it can't safely carry legal weight traffic, that's when we put up a posting sign, a 30-ton posting sign, a 25-ton posting sign, whatever is appropriate. But again, the contracting and the reimbursement mechanism for any kind of load rating effort we may do is going to be pending the availability of funds. So really more information to come about that further down the road in this process. So finally, looking at some target timelines, and then we're going to get to some action items for all of you listening in on this. The funding that was provided for this is for the 23 to 25 budget cycle. So it expires, so to speak, that cycle ends on June 30th, 2025. So about 18 months from now. We're targeting 1 year for the inventory to be complete. So we're looking forward to complete it by the end of this calendar year, by December 31st, 2024. This will get us, as I've been saying, a lot better information on just how many structures we're dealing with, but also the type of structures that we're dealing with. How many of those are culverts? How many of those are actually kind of look more like bridges, those girder bridges, so on and so forth. For the other portions of the effort, the inspection and potential load rating, those efforts don't have to be done necessarily by the end of this fiscal year, that June 30th, 2025. But the funds do have to be encumbered. In other words, it has to be those contracts to do the inspections have to be in place. The actual inspection work will likely continue a little bit past that date. But as you can see at the bottom of the slide there, we don't want to let it dribble out too far into the future. So we are targeting to, as I said, have the inventory done by the end of this year, targeting to have all the inspections done by the end of next year, December 31st, 2025, to complete the inspections. And load ratings, I'm kind of skipping over that. Again, more information to come as we get further down the road with this, have a little bit better sense of the scope of the issue we're dealing with, and see how much funding may be available for that effort. So some action items and deadlines for all of you as local owners and owners of some of these structures. And I'll say we can make this presentation available too, so you can go back and look at this. Don't feel like you have to be furiously scribbling notes or anything. But for the inventory phase, we are looking to have local owners decide on how they're going to resource that inventory effort and inform their county highway commissioner by April 15th of this year. So a few months from now. And just a quick recap, the options for resourcing that inventory effort, that effort where you're going to go collect some basic information about these structures that are out there, including location, are to use your own staff, use staff that you currently employ, coordinate with your county highway commissioner and see if county staff are able to collect that information for you, or execute a contract with a private sector agency to collect that on your behalf, hire a consultant. And there will be a form provided for local municipalities to complete, indicating which option you're going to go with. So we're trying to collect that information just to get a sense of how this information is going to be collected, and so county staff can understand what effort may fall to them. The second portion of it, the inspection phase, municipalities with staff certified as bridge inspectors, we're looking for them to decide whether they're going to inspect their own structures by February 1st. So that date is only a couple weeks out, but I will stress that portion is really only affecting probably about a half dozen municipalities, really the larger cities that have bridge inspectors on staff. So again, to recap the options for resourcing for those cities, they can use their own inspectors. For for counties that have bridge inspectors on staff, they can complete those inspections, or barring either of the first two, they have the option we would then consult out the rest to the private sector. So the second portion of this, the second action item, is for the county highway commissioners to decide on resourcing and communicate with WCA by February 15th. So first, we're asking those handful of cities to decide if they're going to inspect their own structures, if they have that ability to do so. A couple of weeks after that, we're asking all the counties to decide. So this is really only affecting the counties that actually have bridge inspectors on staff, whether they want to inspect on behalf of themselves and on behalf of their municipalities, or if they want to say, no, we don't have that ability, or we don't have inspectors, so we're going to use private sector consultants to do that instead. So that'll set the stage for us a little bit, just to know how many structures are out there and need to be inspected to start developing those contracts for the private sector to do the work. This is a graphic of the timeline that I just walked through, so I won't spend a ton of time on this, but as you can see, it's the same information there. And again, it'll be made available to you at some point after this webinar. But the front part of this is really those decisions on resourcing, how we want to get this effort done for the local municipalities at the front end. Again, I'll stress that we're looking to have the inventory information complete, that effort complete by the end of this calendar year, and the whole effort, those inspections, complete by the end of the calendar year in 2025. And I guess the other thing that I should stress there is that all the money does need to be encumbered in a contract, basically spoken for, accounted for, by the end of the budget cycle, which is June 30th of 2025. So then just a couple more things to wrap up here, and then we'll, again, like I said, we'll have a lot of time for questions. So a couple of my items looking ahead. I mentioned earlier a couple times that the Wisconsin DOT Bureau of Structures will provide training via webinar for both that inventory and the inspection phases. Those webinars will be recorded. We'll make them available on our website. We'll work with the local owners associations to make them available to you. Those dates have not been determined yet, but likely in February. I know the presentations, the webinars are developed or 99% developed, so we should be ready to go with that in the near future here. And we will advertise those webinars in a similar way to how you found out about this. WisDOT will send out communications to the communications list that we have, but we'll also leverage and work with the local owners associations to get the word out. We don't want to make sure that anyone misses those, but it'll still be recorded. So even if you can't make it live, you'll be able to see that recording. And then finally, I'll leave you with this. I alluded to it a few times, but really want to stress that this information is really being gathered for two reasons. The first, to ensure that these structures are safe for the traveling public. I mean, right now, I think there may be some of these that are known and some of these that are getting inspected, but not in a real comprehensive way. So safety is always first. We want to make sure that if anyone is out there driving the personal vehicle, a commercial vehicle, freight, that they can feel confident driving on the roads and bridges, and that there's not going to be any issues. So safety is number one. But also, as I mentioned before, it's really to support, no guarantees, but support a future potential budget proposal for rehabilitation and replacement funding. Again, I know the local owners organizations have been working with the legislature and have been in their ear for a number of years saying that this need is out there and we don't have the funds to address it. This is a big first step in addressing it before we can really provide a specific funding for an effort like this. Sort of got to know what we have out there to get a better sense of how much funding may be needed and how it will be distributed. So this is a big first step in that. And I'll stress again, future funding is not guaranteed, but I think we're all pretty optimistic that is a likely next step. Maybe not in the next budget cycle, but hopefully in the near future here yet. We'd all have an interest in that because we understand this need is out there. So that's what I've got specifically. I haven't been monitoring it explicitly, but I've seen a lot of action going on in the chat. So I can open that up. I don't know if Mark, you want to facilitate answering the questions, or if you want me to start going through those.
Yeah, here's what we'll do. We have the representatives of the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, the Towns Association, and the counties here, and the county highway commissioners. And I know there's been questions and answers going back and forth. So we'll go through each question, and if it has been answered, as I know Jerry and Mike have answered some questions, then please speak up, or Tony. And if not, then Josh, you can address it. So let's start off with the very first link. Michelle did put a link in the chat box. You can certainly look at that after this webinar and watch it time and time again, like your favorite movie. It'll be very informative. So let's see. Let's go on here. We have lots of good mornings, and then we're going to get to some questions. All right. All right. In 2023, the town of Wheaton hired Delmore Consulting to do our culvert assessment, inventory, and mapping. Town of Wheaton paid $11,200 for this service. Will we get reimbursed for this? We did it in 2023. Thank you.
Mark, I can take that one if you like.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So there are consulting firms that have been doing inventory in some towns throughout the state. Delmore Construction is one of several. Likely what you did, Alice, is an inventory of all of your culverts, not just the 6 to 20s, hence the price tag being a little bit above what you would expect for the 6 to 20s. When, as a team, we looked at this, we didn't want to, as state or state government or associations, get into do we have the data, do we not have the data, who paid for the data, etc. So what I would suggest that you do is, given that some of those were 6 to 20s, that you have a specific discussion with whoever your private consultant is to see if there is an opportunity for you to have some of that money reimbursed, or probably more likely, because that's tough for the private sector if it was done a long time ago, some kind of deal on future services that you probably are already purchasing from them. But I would talk directly to that private sector provider. The state's not going to have anything to do with that.
Yeah, let me add to that. If what we're doing is creating an inventory along the lines that Mr. DJ laid out. So how you collect that data is really not necessarily dictated. If you already have it and it complies with the requests of DOT, then fine, submit it and you will get reimbursed $100 per structure. If you
Yep.
do not have it, you can go walk the streets and take a look at it and then report it and then get reimbursed and then get paid $100 per structure for that. Is that fair to say, Josh?
That is, yeah, that's how I would describe it. Yep.
All right, let's move on. Does upcoming inventory apply only to box culverts, or does it include buried culverts longer than 6 feet?
Josh, let me take a crack at this because there's quite a few
Go ahead.
questions regarding the length versus width. And so let's be sure to understand what we're talking about when we say 6 to 20. We are talking diameter. We are not talking if you had a culvert in a stream, for example, the length of the culvert that is running with the stream. We're talking about diameter, one side of the stream to the other side of the stream, for example. And when we talk 6 to 20, we're not just talking about the potential for one pipe. You might have 2 3-foot pipes that end up creating 6 feet. So there are a number of questions regarding this in the chat. We're talking about width, diameter, side to side, not the flow length inside that culvert that the stream would be going.
So from one shore to
Yeah.
another shore.
Yep, correct. Yeah, so I'm just I'm pulling up my screen there again. You can see the one on the, just to speak to what you were just saying, Mike, on the kind of multiple culverts, or in this case, multiple cells. It's a little tough to see, but that photo on the left, there's actually a culvert wall, so to speak, running down the middle of it. So that's actually 2 cells side by side, each 12 feet, that together add up to 24 feet, and that's what makes it a bridge. If it was just one, like more on the left, that 15-foot one, that wouldn't be a bridge. But Mike's exactly right, and the only other thing that I would say is that kind of detail is what we'll be walking through a little bit more explicitly in those webinars that I talked about that the Wisconsin DOT's Bureau of Structures are going to be putting on. We didn't want to get way down into the technical weeds in this one and kind of overwhelm everyone, since this is the first time we're talking about it, but we'll certainly be very clear on what needs to be, what does or doesn't fit the parameters, what information does or doesn't need to be collected.
All right, moving on. Josh, the question is the date of February 15th, 2024 correct? Maybe you could just walk through the dates one more time. The February 1, February 15, and then April 15.
Yeah, so February, excuse me, February 1, and I can maybe pull that slide back up as well. February 1, again, really only applies to those municipalities if you have bridge inspectors on staff. So again, I think there's about a half dozen, just the larger cities, the Milwaukees, the Madisons, the Green Bays, and a few others that I believe have bridge inspectors on staff. If you don't, then that February 1st date doesn't apply to you. This is just talking about the inspection effort. The February 15th date, and I'm just pulling that up here as I talk. All right, the February 15th date is for county highway commissioners to decide, basically, are you able to do the inspections on behalf of your county or not? Yeah, just as simple as that. So you want to hear from your cities first. Again, for most of the counties, that's not going to be applicable to you because you don't have cities with inspectors. But so for counties with bridge inspectors on staff, February 15th is the date that we're asking you to decide, are you able to resource this effort or not within the given time frame. And I'll say maybe this is a good time to throw in for those county highway commissioners. Your winter road school is next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to be at the bridge committee there, and then also in the general session talking about this as well. So additional opportunities to clarify if you need clarification there.
Okay, moving on, Josh. Will be for you. How will the local governments get the form that necessary to send to the county highway commissioners on how inspections will be done?
Yeah, we've got that form developed. We've been working on it with WCHA. Patrick was nice enough to take the lead on pulling that together, just kind of putting the final touches on that. I assume that'll be distributed similar to how this webinar was sent out through the local owners associations. You guys have those distribution lists, but yeah, it's pretty basic. It's really just kind of a checkbox form as to which option you're picking.
Next question, Josh. Many small bridges and culverts in Wisconsin have already been inventoried as part of the Great Lakes Stream Crossing Inventory Database. All data is available to the public. Are you planning to make use of this information?
Yeah, we have. So that was when I mentioned before that we had done some GIS mapping efforts to try and determine locations of it. Yes, information like that was a part of that effort. So it gets us some potential locations. I guess is the gist of it there. It doesn't have all the information that we're looking for this. It doesn't necessarily get us the size. It doesn't necessarily get us the type of bridge, the material. Is it concrete? Is it steel? That kind of thing. So there is additional information still to be collected, but it does give us a leg up with some potential locations for these. The one caveat with that is that it doesn't give us size. So you can see when we're going to provide this information, it's the information that we have from this mapping. It's overshooting that number of 25,000 because that's giving you everything, every potential culvert or a stream crossing where a stream crosses a roadway. So it could end up being a dry run and there's not actually a culvert there. It could end up being a 2-foot culvert pipe, which falls outside the bounds of what we're looking at here. So it's going to help, but it doesn't get us all the way there, I guess is the short answer.
Next question, will this presentation be available in PDF format? And the answer to that is yes. My colleague Michelle will post a link in on the WCA website, and she'll also put it in PDF format. Next question, is training required or recommended for the inventory phase of this effort?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say required, but it's a very brief training, really just to explain the information that we're going to be looking for. It's not going to be terribly extensive. This is not a half day or day long thing. It'll probably be an hour or so with time for questions, just to go through the kind of questions that we were talking about for. When we say span, what are we talking about? When we say, just the way that Mike was describing diameter, just to be clear on what information that we're looking for to avoid the inefficiencies of having to go back and forth and no, you collected this information when we were looking for that kind of thing.
Next question. Our town has been proactive and had culverts inventoried and inspected in 2023. The information is already uploaded in the HSIS system. Are we eligible for reimbursement?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is really sorry, just scrolling down to read that myself. I think that question or the answer to that is the same one as the one we gave before, that we would reimburse, not a direct reimbursement for whatever you might have paid for it, but at that $100 per structure. And then similarly, when we inspect them at that $350 per structure.
Yeah, let me add to that. This is a case when working with the department that there is no penalty for local units of government having already done some work. So we're trying to collect a comprehensive inventory, and a local unit of government will be paid $100 per structure, whether you already have it done in your pocket and can just send it in, or whether you have to go out and walk the roads and take a look and inventory it. Same thing with inspection. If you have the inspection done and it meets all of the criteria desired by the Department of Transportation, you can simply submit that and you would receive the $350 per inspection. If not, then you would have to either get a certified bridge inspector through the county, or if you are a county that is not engaging in bridge inspection, then the local government associations will get together and work with the private sector to make sure that your county is covered. And then reimbursement would occur to that private sector entity.
Yeah, looks like Jerry might have something to add as well.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Jerry.
I think it might help to state that for those that have either already done an inventory or you're aware of other inventory resources out there, the department is as well. I mean, if you remember back to that beautiful picture of the state of Wisconsin with all the dots sprayed all over it, what this is an effort to bring all of those resources together in a consistent manner, make sure that we have a consistent level of information about them, and get it all in one place. Right now, we have some information over here. We have some information over there. It's not all sufficient to put together a new program, I guess is what I'd like to say. So yeah, if you've already got one, send it in. Josh, is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, on the bridge side, for structures that are over 20 feet, I mean, we have all that information in HSIS, our bridge database. So we can report out and say that we have, about 9,000 local bridges, and we have this many that are this length, and this many that are this type, and this many that are in poor condition, this many are in good condition. We have all that information out there. So when we're talking about rehabilitation funding, when we're talking about replacement funding, we have the data to back up that need is out there. Just what you said, Jerry. Right now, some information is out there, but some is just anecdotal, some is a bit of an estimate. So yes, absolutely, just trying to pull it together in one place in a consistent manner. Yep.
Next question. Can a county with their own PM and inspectors choose to supplement their staff with a consultant of their choice for the inspection portion? This would be a situation where the county may perform a portion of the inspections and then a consultant perform the remainder depending on workload. I'll take a crack at this, Josh. The way it is currently designed is if we're going to have a certified bridge inspector as an employee of the county, then they will perform all the inspections within that county. And if they do not have the time or desire to perform all of the inspections within those county boundaries, then you would simply be a county that would say, we're not going to do it, let the private sector do it. And then the associations will take over and work with the private sector. The reason for this is we are trying to maximize consistency and minimize administration and administrative oversight. So we're trying to have as few as is reasonable inspectors engage in this process for the effort of consistency. Any added comments, either Josh or Mike or Jerry? Okay, then let's move on. Will DOT inventory small bridges on connecting highways, or will the local municipality do that?
That's a good question. I guess my response would be, we'll get back to you on that. It's going to be a relatively small number, but yeah, no, that's something that we can clarify.
Next question, will the anticipated inventory map be shared for individual counties to aid in finding each structure?
Yeah, we can absolutely share the link to what we've got. I mean, again, it's not some of them are gonna identify structures that aren't there, either don't exist or they're a 2-foot pipe and don't fit the parameters of this effort. But we want to provide what we know as a tool to help. So yeah, absolutely.
Next, I guess more of a comment. Thank you for rolling out this inventory effort, which covers a huge need in the state. I agree this effort statewide is critical for both ensuring crossings are safe and for prioritizing future replacement funding. I am an organizer and user of the Great Lakes Stream Crossing Inventory. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, inventory protocol in Wisconsin. We currently have 7,000 crossings inventoried, and the protocol is quickly picking up steam and being used across the state. Protocol is exhaustive. Over 100 field factors are measured at each crossing. Structure condition is assessed on a protocol basis. I guess this suffices to say we're on the right track. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Will there be a standard inventory form to collect the required information?
Yes. Yeah, I think there were a few questions in this line of thinking. There was one that asked about also uploading that information into HSIS. So to make it as easily as possible, yes, we've got a standard form that we're putting together, just a spreadsheet with spots for this basic location, the dozen or 20 or so pieces of information that we're looking for. That's the document that'll go back to your county highway commissioner that they'll send to WisDOT that will upload into the database to create that entry for that structure. We want to make it, as Mark's been saying, we want to make this as simple as possible.
Next question. Are there plans to have a finalized GIS layer compiled with locations and attributes for these structures after the inventory is completed?
I'd say potentially. I mean, if you're familiar with our HSIS database, there's mapping available in there. It's not the kind of GIS mapping that you're talking about or GIS layering that you're talking about there. But once we have that information, I mean, we're proposing to collect latitude, longitude there. It'll give us all kinds of different options. So potentially, yes.
Next question, is there a size limit on culverts? We have a 15-inch culvert that needs replacement. And again, this is the criteria will be shore to shore, not necessarily the size of the culvert. Any additions, Josh?
No, just that if there are multiple culverts, right, they have to be, and again, we'll detail this in the webinar that we're going to put on more specifically. They have to be, spaced pretty tight together, and that total span has to be in that 6 to 20 foot range.
Next question. Will this be covered in the Wisconsin Towns Association district meetings? My meeting is not until February 23rd. Do I need to do anything prior to this date?
So we are having a segment on this at our district meetings. All of the district meetings very purposefully are occurring prior to the April 15th deadline. So if you want to wait until the middle of February when your district meeting occurs to get a deep dive in person, you bet. I would encourage for those that are town members to sign up for that, because we're also going to be going through another DOT program that their staff has provided great leadership on, the Agricultural Road Improvement Program, as well as a number of other things. So the answer is yes, and we would encourage you to come. We'll also be communicating, as always, through our magazine and also email, and we'll do some webinars as well for those that can't attend those in-person district meetings.
Next question. Am I correct in assuming that culverts require a certified bridge inspector? Our township has all pipe culverts, no box culverts, and no bridges, but many culverts.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, we're using certified inspectors for all structures that meet the definitions of this effort. So again, between that 6 and 20 feet, because that answers the next question. There is a minimum diameter. The minimum span is really that's 6 feet. So if you have, I think there's a question just below that, twin 72-inch culverts or 72 culverts. So if you had a series of, say, 4-foot pipes next to each other that add up to more than 6 feet, but less than 20 feet, that would fit into this effort, be considered one of these structures, and you would inspect it with a certified bridge inspector. But if it's smaller than that, then not. Mike, I see you got your hand up there.
Just to clarify, because we're all using new terminology here that many people are not familiar with, and we're used to it. So Josh is absolutely right. On the inspection, where they're actually going to go out and determine the safety of the structure and whether or not it can handle the traffic, et cetera, that is a certified bridge instructor that will do that. For the inventory or the just go out and find them phase, where you're collecting very basic data, there is not any kind of technical or certified requirement for that. And DOT is going to be providing a very elementary level training to help anybody that wants to do that.
Yep, good clarification.
Next question. Is there funding available for a full culvert inventory? For example, smaller culverts on municipal roads?
I'll say not at this time. This specific program, this specific effort is aimed at those structures between 6 and 20 feet.
Yeah. What I would suggest on that front, because I've gotten that question a lot in the office, is that for the 6 to 20s, the state is underwriting it. If you want a full culvert inventory, the ones under 6 feet, which a number of towns are doing, at that time that you choose who you're going to do the inventory with, you have a discussion with them about doing the remainder of it at a future date.
All right. Several questions here in this next block. You addressed the 72-inch already, Josh, so I'll skip that one. Are elements required for those inspections? If yes, will small structures with bridge elements, for example, deck, girders, etc., be inspected or inventoried with bridge elements or culvert elements?
Sorry, crossing up there. So no to a lot of very specific questions there. I'll say we'll definitely address these in the webinar. But going through those, no small structures. We're not using elements. It's sticking to the NBI inspection criteria, which again, that's getting a little bit technical. We'll get to that in the webinar that we have after this. SMBI changes. Oh, I keep skipping around here. How do SMBI changes affect these? Again, we'll really address that in the more technical webinar that we're going to hold. So I'm going to defer that question for now. Should local governments request new V numbers for existing C structures? That again, I think is best left to the more technical webinar. Yeah, I see. It looks like that's Brian Rice. It might be best to get in touch directly, Brian. Otherwise, all these technical types of questions, and I'm not trying to blow them off. They are all good questions. All questions that we've already got teed up to address again in the couple of webinars that we're going to hold. One addressing the inventory, one addressing the inspection. So great questions, though.
So, Brian, you may want to contact Josh directly and kind of walk
Maybe
through.
maybe one that might be worth addressing. And I don't know if this would be you or others, Mark, but near the end there, to reduce the time required and the number of contracts, can we combine the inventory and assessment and get reimbursed $450 per culvert?
Well, if the inspections can be done by each local unit of government. So let's, I mean, it's kind of a specific detail question. We wouldn't have a situation where a town would say, I'm going to do my inspections and get reimbursed $100 per unit. And then I'll contract out for my bridge inspections, my inventory, inventory $100 a unit, and I'll contract over my inspections. It wouldn't work that way because the inspections are going to be done on a county by county basis. So either it's going to be the county highway commissioner doing all the inspections within the county boundaries, or it is going to be contracted out to the private sector. So we're trying to eliminate the patchwork. If it was going to be the case that we have a county that is going to take care of all the inspections, and it works out that I could see in a scenario where the county highway commissioner may be able to assign a certified bridge inspector to begin work even before all the inventory is done within a county. But we'll have to work on a timeline like that. With that, I'll talk with Mr. Colas and Mr. Deshane about that.
Yeah, I only brought it up because I see a similar question below as well.
Yeah, I guess the almost identical. Does an inventory need to be complete before inspections begin? If a possible structural concern is found during the inventory phase, then what is the recommended action?
Yeah, I didn't mention it. I didn't highlight that one specifically, but one of the items in that inventory phase is just what you're getting at there. A concerns that kind of, if you see something immediate, say something. So and again, there'll be more direction on this in the webinars that we're going to put on, getting into the more details of the inventory effort. But if you do see something, certainly want to bring it to the attention. I think it would first go probably to the county highway commissioner, and we will address it as we feel appropriate with their consulting with them. But again, more specifics on that to come.
Next question. Our town has done an inventory and has had them privately inspected every 4 years. We are due to do it again in 2024. Will this be eligible for reimbursement if done in 2024?
For the 6 to 20s, my answer would be yes. For the under 6s, the answer would be no.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean,
Yep.
We have desired timelines, but if we are able to get some of this work done in advance, well, we're all in favor of that.
Yep. And I'll just clarify, eligible for the reimbursement that we laid out. $100 per inventory, $350 per inspection.
Thank you, Josh. Yep, you bet.
Next question. If a county has an existing contract for bridge inspections for all municipalities within the county, could these structures be added to an existing contract? I guess let me answer it generally. When DOT is asking for inventory information, you conduct the inventory any way you wish, yourself, a third party, however you'd like to do it. And you fill out the proper form and ship it into DOT or through the highway commissioner. If the inspections are going to occur, that is, again, except for that handful of half dozen cities, which might do their own inspections, it will be on a county by county basis. In other words, a county will do all of the inspections within their county boundary, whether that will be by the highway department, county highway department, or a third party, but it will be done by one entity, one or the other. That's a general answer to a specific question. We may have to look at your specific situation, Brian, and see how we handle that. Next question, is mapping being included in this effort?
Yeah, one of the items that we're collecting that inventory effort is a latitude, longitude location. So yeah, we'll be able to map it from there.
This is a new one, Josh. For a person seeking to be a certified bridge inspector, will each of these inspections count towards the work experience needed to be a certified bridge inspector?
Yeah, you might see me scribbling off to the side here. That was one I wrote down specifically too. I would want to, before I give an answer off the top of my head, I'd want to check with our very capable maintenance staff here. So I will get back to you on that, or we will. I imagine there's a number of questions that we're probably not going to all get to here, but we can certainly go through the chat and provide answers to those in written form. And this will be one of them. Yeah.
Next question, where and when can we get the forms to indicate our choices for inventory and inspection?
Yep, I think we mentioned that as well, working on finalizing that, but that should be distributed shortly. And Mark or Mike, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think it's going to make sense most for you guys to distribute it the same way you distributed this webinar invite to your member contact lists.
Makes sense, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We will absolutely do that.
Next question, how will the selection process work for inspections if the owner is hiring a consultant? A direct hire, question mark? Let me answer that. So again, if a county chooses to engage in the inspection phase of this, then that county will do the inspections of all the bridges within the boundaries of the county, the town, city, and county structures. If the county decides that they have a bridge inspector, but they do not wish to engage in that phase of it, or if they do not have a certified bridge inspector, then they simply say, we're not going to do it. And then the process will be the state associations are getting together with the private sector, and we will hire a private sector entity that will cover all of the bridges within that county. Let's see, Josh, it just occurred to me that the picture of the 24-inch culvert that is used in the presentation might help foster this confusion about size. Just a comment.
Yeah.
When will the CHC receive the webinar you had mentioned?
Yeah, no specific date set for that yet. We kind of wanted to get through this initial communication effort and the winter road school with the county highway commissioners early next week before we scheduled those specifically, but very soon. Again, those are already prepared and just about ready to go. So I would anticipate end of this month or sometime in February. So you'll certainly get alerted when those are out there.
Next question, will the measurement of the culvert include or not include the end walls?
Again, getting into some of those specific questions, I appreciate it because that's the kind of questions we're gonna answer in those webinars. So I'll just defer that till then.
Question: can you please show the slide again that identifies what information is going to be required for the inventory phase?
Yeah, I'll say maybe just in interest of time, and I'll say I'm available to stay a little bit longer if need be, but we are getting close to 11 o'clock. I would refer back to what we said before, that this whole presentation will be made available in PDF format. So certainly available for viewing at a later date. Mike, you got your hand up?
Yeah, Josh, you have like a 3 or 4 page document that we all worked on too that includes those items, that also includes a lot of detail, everything that we've gone through here today. That's something that the associations can certainly send out as well. So if you could get that to Mark and Jerry and I, we can get that out, which answers a lot of these detailed questions, I believe.
Yep.
Next question, will the Wisconsin Department of Transportation be sending out correspondence asking each county if they plan to do the inspections prior to February 15th?
Yeah, good question. I think that'll either be us or probably you, Mark, right? Collecting that information, and we'll coordinate on that.
We will. The associations will work with the Department of Transportation to get correspondence out. Will speed limit information be collected during the inventory? Will inspections evaluate whether the speed limit is appropriate for the structure?
Not one of the items that we were proposing to collect. That might come at a phase down the road if you were looking to replace the structure. That might be a part of the design phase, but no, not at this time.
How will we know if we have the resources to inspect all structures before we have an inventory? That is a workload question that will be a decision on each county highway department because they would be performing the inspections or going with the private sector. Um, I,
Well,
that's
yeah, I will say, I mean, it's an estimate, but we do have approximate numbers by county, so we can get you some idea there. We mentioned only in this presentation, we only mentioned an estimate of 25,000 across the whole state. It gets a little bit tougher to identify potential numbers when you get down to each individual town or village, but at the county level, we can certainly give you an estimate of how many we think are there.
Will this policy or effort also apply to structures on or along trails, railroads, etc.? In other words, non-highway facilities.
Yeah, at this point, we were looking at highway facilities only. That was the intent of the budget item.
If a county has a private bridge inspector under contract, can the county use that inspector? Um, Again, it will either be the county highway commissioner and or their staff with a certified bridge inspector on staff, or it would be a private sector entity that the associations will get together and ensure that the state is covered. So that if you don't do it yourself as a county, then you simply say we're not going to do it as our personal staff, and then it will fall to the associations who will make sure the state is covered. Let's see. That's a comment. Can you supply a print form, fill in the blanks inventory sheet? It will be something like that, Josh. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, the form that we were proposing to provide is in digital format. I mean, in spreadsheet format. It has to be in digital format if it's going to eventually be uploaded into HSIS, into that online database. So if you want to collect it in print format by hand, certainly welcome to do that. But what needs to be submitted to us does have to be in that spreadsheet format, which again is going to be, I mean, I know everyone isn't as technologically capable as others, but we're going to make it as simple as absolutely possible. We don't want to make this any harder than it has to be.
Question: do county road structures qualify? Well, if it's 6 to 20, it's going to fall under this category. What is the reasoning for choosing 6 feet as the cutoff?
Good question, because it was in the budget item. No, I mean, in terms of 6 feet specifically, and I'll let you guys speak to this as well. In terms of 6 feet specifically, I don't know that I have a crystal clear answer, but we did want to limit the scope of this effort a little bit. If you start taking it down to 2-foot pipes, the issue grows exponentially. So sort of trying to set some bounds on it. Is that fair, Mark?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 components to the answer, and you touched on one of them there, Josh, and that was resource availability. When you're asking for money out of a state budget to do something, you have to make an estimate of how much it's going to cost. And with 25,000 structures at the price point that has been developed, it came to an amount of money that the state was comfortable with, legislators were comfortable with. The other thing I would say is we have some examples from other states in the Midwest. Wisconsin's a little bit behind on this, where they have done this or are in the process of doing this. Minnesota's at 10 feet. South Dakota uses a circumference, not a diameter. It comes out to something a little shorter in diameter than 6 feet. So it was a mixture of resource availability and what others have found successful in other states.
Okay, let's see. My town has structures that fall into the 6 to 20 category, but are not on town roads, but rather on national forest trails. For example, under their jurisdiction, not the town's. Do we report these structures? And I think Josh addressed that. This is really not meant for that at this time. Let's see. Okay, inventory of culverts over 6 feet in diameter and up to 20 feet should be very simple, but do you have a feel for how many minutes or hours it might take to enter the necessary data into the computer program?
Yeah, again, so for that inventory information, it's those, whatever it is, dozen or so pieces of information, and we're just looking for you to put it in the spreadsheet. So, we'll have a cell there, a place where you put your name. We'll have a different cell where you put the date that you're taking the inventory, a different cell where you put the county that it's in, so on and so forth. So it's really however fast you can type that information into the appropriate cell. The uploading into the HSIS, that online database that I keep mentioning, that's an automatic process that'll happen. We'll use that spreadsheet and upload that information. That's not on you, that's on us.
Next question, am I correct in understanding that I can perform phase 1 inventory information in-house without the bridge inspector certification? But then phase 2 in-person inspection would be performed by a certified bridge inspector, same as DOT bridges. And the answer to that is correct. You can perform the inventory yourself, but when it comes to inspection, it will either be done by the highway department of the county or a private sector entity.
Yep, you are correct, Matt.
Is there any money available for the smaller buried culverts in other programs?
I guess I won't speak to that explicitly other than to say that it's not included in this program.
Is a scour plan needed, and will there be a standard sheet for that?
Now we're getting into the way into the technical details. Not at this point. That would come. I would say tune into the webinars where we'll answer more specific technical questions like that.
Is there a form for the $100 reimbursement per structure for culverts between 6 and 20? And again, we'll work with DOT, and that will all be laid out for you in the future. Let's see. What if the culverts span 20 feet in length? I suppose meaning right at 20 feet.
Or yeah, I'm following up after that, meaning the span is longer than 20 feet in length. If it's longer than 20 feet in length, then it's a bridge. And it should be inventoried and inspected as a bridge. And all those requirements are already out there. So if you do happen to find something that isn't currently, isn't currently in the system, isn't notified, then have to let us know. Have to start inspecting it as a bridge.
One of our town board supervisors is a certified bridge inspector and has always inspected our over 20 bridges as one of his additional duties for the town. I just want to confirm that since we have a certified bridge inspector on staff, we can do our own inspections of our 6 to 20. And the answer to that is no. The 6 to 20 bridge inspections will be done by the county highway department or a private sector entity that will cover the entire county. And again, I certainly mean no disrespect for this, but we're trying to minimize the number of entities to a reasonable number to perform the inspections for consistency purposes and to minimize administrative oversight that we will have to engage in as the local associations. Next question, what about structures or alleys, not local roads? I have an alley with twin 4-foot culverts.
Good question. I mean, I think we'd want to limit this to something that is marked as a local, publicly accessible road. So alleys, I don't know if it would fall under that category. And I see there was a question before on, maybe this fits into this question as well. One that we skipped earlier, I think, on storm sewers. And to answer that, I don't know. Storm sewers are also not intended to be covered with this effort. It would greatly maximize the number of structures that are potentially out there and just wasn't accounted for in developing this program.
Next question, will individual counties be able to choose the consultant they would like to work with to complete the inspections? If a county has decided they are not going to do the inspections within their county boundaries, they can certainly make a recommendation to the associations as we try to cover the entire state. I would suggest to you that we are going to have as small a number as is reasonable take care of the counties that are not conducting the inspections within their own borders. Is that 3, 4, 5, 20 consultants? Not sure yet. You can certainly make a recommendation to the towns, the league, and the counties, and we will certainly take it into consideration. So the culverts, when you say 6 feet to 20 feet, you're talking height and not length, correct? Josh,
Well, we're talking, maybe the easiest way to say is we're talking about the distance that the road spans over that structure, if that makes sense. But I can tell you again, tune into the webinars that the Bureau of Structure is going to put on. We'll walk through all of these details about what exact measurements that we're looking for.
Next question. If a county who perhaps has a certified bridge inspector on staff does not want to do the inspections, is the state hiring the private sector or is it the county? And the answer to that is the state associations will be working with the private sector to ensure that your county and all the bridges within it are inspected. Let's see. Next, the towns have already set the 2024 budgets. When the county conducts the inspections, will the towns be charged the fee for the inspections? No, the towns will not be charged anything. This is simply dollars flowing from the state of Wisconsin to either for the inspections, either to the county highway department who will perform the functions within the county boundaries, or a private sector entity who will perform the functions within the county boundaries. So no, the towns will not be charged.
The other thing I would add there, Mark, if I could, is that we need to make sure there's a distinction between the inventory and inspection phase, the go find them phase and the what is the condition phase. And for towns, you really don't have to worry about that second phase where they're doing the rating of the structure using the National Bridge Inventory System. That's something that, as Mark has said, is either going to be done by your highway commissioner or the private sector. For towns, focus only on the inventory phase.
Since inspections are done by licensed bridge inspectors, will our municipalities be charged for this? No. This will not cost a town or a municipality or a county. It won't cost us any money. The state of Wisconsin has put $12.5 million into this effort so that we have a good inventory and a good handle on where the trouble spots are with inspections. Really, the goal here is to have good data so that we as local government associations can go to the legislature and have the legislature allocate additional funds so we have dollars to repair and or replace and maintain safe water crossings in our state, all over the state. We don't have that data as of now. This is an attempt to get there. How will consultants get on the short list for completing the inspections? Simply you can call any one of the associations, the league, the towns, the counties, just make a recommendation to us. Probably better to drop us a note electronically so we can have that list. And just a minute on the process. Once we find out how many counties are going to cover their individual counties, of the 72, let's say there are 40 that say we're going to cover all the bridges within our jurisdiction. Okay, great. Now we've got 32 counties left. And the associations will get together and talk with the private sector to ensure that all 32 of those counties and all the bridges within are properly inspected according to DOT standards. And then once we do that, the dollars will flow from DOT to the counties association, and we are simply the administrative agent. We are taking $0 for this, and then we will pay the private sector $350 per inspection. And that's how it will go. Let me clarify. If the county does our bridge inspections, will our municipality be charged? No, they will not be charged. Let's see. There is no town responsibility for inspections, only the inventory. Go find them phase. You will pay whoever is doing it and then be 100% reimbursed by WisDOT. That is correct. That money will run through the highway commissioner. That is correct. We're doing a town-specific webinar the next 2 Mondays. I would encourage you to tune in. Very good point. This sounds like a good amount of work to do with these inspections. How do materials and how, oh, I missed it here. Sounds like a good amount of work to do with these inspections. How do we know that a county highway department or contractor can do this work for the reimbursement that you are talking about? Who takes care of the remaining costs? This is a situation on the inspections at $350 per inspection. The county County Highway Department will have to make a decision whether they wish to take $350 per unit inspected or not. If they do, then they will receive the $350 per unit inspected. If it costs $200 per unit in some cases and $400 in another, the County Highway Department will have to make a decision, a business decision about whether they wish to do it or not. If they choose not, then the associations will work with the private sector to ensure that some entity covers that county. And that entity will be paid $350 per inspection. And that private sector entity will also have to make a business decision if they wish to accept it or not. And if they say not, then we will move on to another consultant who will then cover the county for that amount. How have the amounts been arrived at? The average cost of inspections over a long period of time. So this is a very reasonable dollar amount for inspections of 6 to 20 bridges. Let's see. Kind of jumping around here a little bit. Let's see. If our bridge is scheduled to be replaced in early 2025, will this need to be inspected? Josh?
I guess it depends on if we're talking, I'm assuming we're talking about a bridge within the confines of this program, so between 6 and 20 feet. I would say probably not if you're already planning on inspecting it in 2025. That's leave it there.
Mike Colas took care of that item. Let's see. If the county has internal resources to do the inspections on the county system, but not on the local system, would that split be allowed? No. When the inspections occur, it will the County Highway Department will decide whether they will do all the inspections within the county boundaries, city, town, village, county, or not. So a county will either do all of them or they will do none of them. And then a private sector would do all of them. Let's move to the Q&A now. Let's see. How will permissions to upload to HSIS be handled if the person is not a certified bridge inspector?
Yep. So for the inventory phase, as I mentioned, it's going to be through an Excel sheet, through a spreadsheet, and then we'll do the upload on the back end. So that's all you need to know. And the inspections, if you're a certified bridge inspector, then you will have access to upload directly your inspections.
Would a bridge currently on the National Register of Historic Places but currently closed be included in this inventory?
Specific questions like that, and I noticed a few more further down, probably best contacting your county highway commissioner, and they might put you in touch with us, because I don't know if we're talking about a culvert or if we actually are talking about a bridge. Kind of different answers to that question. So yeah, if you have real detailed questions like that, reach out. Like I said, I would either to your county highway commissioner or you can reach out to us.
We mentioned waterways earlier, but does this also include overpasses over highways that are 6 to 20?
I'm going to say no. I don't know if we're going to have any. I struggle to think of any overpasses that are going to be between 6 and 20 feet in length.
There is a private road that was a town road about 50 years ago. The owners want the town to take it back. What are the options for the town or residents on the private road with bridge and dam?
Yeah, you're really getting into it. Yep. Go ahead, Mike.
So, first of all, Chris, I would direct you to give our legal hotline a call at the Towns Association. Secondly, because you're dealing with a bridge and dam, you're going to involve a whole host of other state agencies in that. So, in addition to talking to our folks who will know some basic information, you might want to talk to your own private attorney for the town, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of issues there.
Multiple smaller pipes totaling 6 feet or more would also qualify, correct?
Correct. Yes. And we'll get the details on that. I mean, they have to be spaced close enough together, but details on that will come in the upcoming webinars.
Next question. We talked about structures more than 20 feet in length, but the title of the webinar is structures 6 to 20. What is the size requirement for these structures? This effort by the Department of Transportation and local government will cover structures 6 to 20 feet. If it is longer than 20 feet, it will not be part of this program. Let's see. Will there be a standard inventory form to collect the required data? Yes, there will. It'll be distributed to all interested parties. Will a hard copy of this seminar be available via email? You can go to the website in the link in the chat and certainly download it and print it out if you desire. If you simply cannot, drop us a note and we'll print it out for you and send it. What decision is needed from municipalities by February 1? Our town board's next meeting is in mid-February. The February 1 date is the date by which a half dozen municipalities who have bridge inspectors on staff need to decide whether they will inspect their own bridges or not. And if after February 1, then by February 15th, the counties need to decide if they will do the work within their county boundaries or not. Let's see. Will two 3-foot culverts placed next to each other be considered a 6-foot structure? The answer is yes. Let's see. Please clarify which structures will require inspections by a certified bridge inspector. Well, it's going to be all of them within 6 to 20.
Everything 6 to 20, yeah.
Everything in the inventory will need an inspector. Will the Department of Transportation be sending out correspondence asking the counties if we plan to do the inspections before February 1? I think we answered that previously, Josh.
Yeah.
We provide these slides? Yes. Link in the chat. If we have a county commissioner on contract, we've addressed this issue. It was stated that there will be state resources and mapping to help with the inventory. How can I find those resources? Josh?
Yeah, we'll be sending out a link to what we've got, again, for potential locations as well. More to come on that.
Okay, some of these are duplicates from our chat. So
yeah.
Do you have a plan for the future when these structures are updated about who is responsible for keeping the database up to date?
Good question. I would say not specifically at this time. I mean, specifically, we're working with the funding that was provided to, again, do this initial inventory and inspection effort, and into the future, stay tuned.
Will the GIS data be points or lines?
I will defer that question to later as well. Right now, well, I'll defer that question to later.
Do county forest roads 6 to 20 feet structures qualify? I think the answer to that is not, no. Will the span be measured along the skew center line of the road? For example, a 60-inch culvert at a 45-degree skew would be roughly 85 inches. Josh, does that mean something to you?
Yeah, I mean, again, all specific questions on just exactly what kind of measurements we're looking for. And I don't want to, so as not to confuse people, I don't want to get too deep in it there without the proper diagrams or everything. But again, I will just say that those questions will be answered explicitly, again, in those more technical webinars on the inventory and in the inspection phase that Bureau Structures will put on in the near future here.
Question, if we do not have a bridge inspector on staff, will we be able to coordinate our inspections with a consultant similar to over 20-foot bridges? You can certainly make a recommendation. If you are not going to conduct the inspections within your county boundaries, you can certainly make a recommendation to the associations and we will take it into consideration. But if you do not do the inspections within your boundaries, a private sector entity will be performing that function. What are the repercussions if a municipality does not comply with filing the paperwork and follow-up actions? Bridges are only going to get replaced or repaired if we have the dollars to perform that function. The dollars would be provided by the state, and I suspect what will happen if an entity decides not to comply, it would be much, much, much less likely that you would ever get any dollars to repair or replace your structure. It is in the best interest of every local government in the state that has a structure between 6 and 20 to conduct or have conducted an inventory and to conduct or have conducted the inspections. It is in our own best interest to get this done. If the county has a private bridge inspector hired to do their bridge inspections, can we use them across the county for all inspections? You can certainly make a recommendation to the associations. We'll take it under advisement. Two culverts side by side, we've addressed that. Can counties defer all inventory or the inspection to WCA? Thought I heard you say such. Each entity will conduct their inspections or hire someone to conduct their conduct their inventory or hire someone to conduct their inventory. When it comes to inspections, that's where the associations will get together to ensure that all the structures within your boundaries are covered by either the highway commissioner or a private sector entity. Do pedestrian bridges qualify for this, Josh?
No. Simply no.
All right. Some of these are similar questions. I already answered the question. Okay.
Yeah, one that I'm just going to jump in and say real quick, because there's a question on, does this program include culverts that are 6 feet diameter, or is it larger than 6 feet in diameter? So again, we will answer this and be clear on it again in the webinars that we have coming up. But the language in the state statute reads, local bridges are culverts that are 20 feet or less in length, but greater than 6 feet in length. So yes, apologies if we've been saying it both ways. It is greater than 6 feet in length on that lower limit.
Will the $350 reimbursement for the bridge inspection be the limited charge to the municipalities for bridge inspection? Again, there is no charge to the municipalities. Either if you are one of the half dozen municipalities that would conduct your own bridge inspections, you would be paid $350. You would be paid $350 for each inspection. If you are not going to perform those inspections, either the county highway commissioner and his or her staff would be paid to $350, or a private sector entity. There is no charge to the municipalities for inventory or inspection. Let's see. Does anyone know of software or an app of some kind that would work for small municipalities to manage or track culverts, bridges, roads, etc.? Josh, are you aware of anything like that?
Yeah, so I think the thing that I want to say here, and again, we will make this clear in the webinars that we're going to put on, but that this database that I keep talking about, our Highway Structures Information System, that's a publicly available database. It's available via the web. Anyone can get a login credential to log into that, and you can go in and see them right there. You can map out all the locations. You can see the condition information. So that's typically what the local municipalities use right now to manage their bridge inventories. I would imagine you would do similar with these structures. Mike, I don't know if you had anything to add, or
No, you got it.
okay.
Next question: who is covering state structures, if any, within each county?
State structures are already inventoried. Should already be done. There may be a handful that aren't currently inventoried, but we have largely done that effort already for the state structures.
Okay, we have exhausted the Q&A and the chat. So those are all the questions we have. Again, there'll be more information coming out on this. The Department of Transportation will be at the...
Hey, Mark, can I jump in? There is one question at the end, and I might have stated inaccurately. So Mark had a follow-up question. Does a pedestrian box culvert that fits the size go under a state highway or a local road qualify? That absolutely. When the question on pedestrian bridges, the answer is yes to the second question. If you have a box culvert that's serving as a pedestrian facility, which is actually one of the photos that I showed earlier, that absolutely would qualify.
So to sum this up, the state of Wisconsin has provided DOT with funds so we can inventory and inspect our 6 to 20 bridges. Every local unit of government has the responsibility to get their inventory completed, either themselves or contract with a private entity, and whoever does it will get $100 per structure. When it comes to inspections, a county highway commissioner and his or her staff with a certified bridge inspector will inspect all the bridges within their jurisdiction, the boundaries of the county, or if they choose not to, then a private sector entity would perform those functions. Private sector entity will be selected by the associations to ensure the state is covered. The county or the private sector entity will receive $350 per structure inspected. All of this data will be compiled and collected with the Department of Transportation in an effort to have a good database so that we may hopefully get additional dollars from the state in the future budgets so we can repair and or replace our structures. That's the very quick, unfair summary. I'm sure you'll have more questions as we move on. So if you do, feel free to call each association or the Department of Transportation. And DOT will come out with additional information in the relatively near future on forms, and we'll have further clarification on some of the detailed questions that were raised today. And we'll also be at the County Highway School in the next couple of weeks. Any final comments, DOT? Mike, Tony?
That's how I was going to wrap up. Yeah, just for the county highway community, you will see us again on Monday, both at the specific bridge committee meeting, and we've got an hour in the general session to talk about this and one other topic. So you'll definitely see us there. But I have mentioned these webinars that on both the inventory and the inspection phases that you'll see invitations coming out for in the near future here yet. All those questions that I said I was going to defer to, those are all the very detailed questions. I appreciate them all. They're all very good questions, and we will make sure to answer them all very specifically there. If we don't, make sure you get your questions. We are here to help. And also, as mentioned before, we will distribute a copy of this presentation through your local association. So trying to help out as much as we can. We're not trying to drop any bombs on you and then walk away. We want to be here to help.
Okay. I would just add, I'm sure for a lot of you, it was like taking a drink of water from a fire hose. We are going to be doing a webinar on Monday for towns only. In the afternoon, the next Monday in the evening, and then as noted earlier, all of the upcoming 15 district meetings will include a segment on this. So plenty of opportunities to learn prior to that April 15th deadline, which is the first deadline for towns, cities, and villages.
DOT, Towns Association, League of Municipalities, Wisconsin County Highways Association, thank you all, and all attendees, thank you all for joining. More information to come in the future. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.